Welcome to TV, Tennessee Valley Church. It's Easter, and we're at Huntsville's beautiful botanical garden. What a perfect place to celebrate spring and new life. I was at Huntsville's Christian Job Corps luncheon in the fall of 2016 when the speaker, Dr. Rika McCroy, made a statement that I'd heard before but hadn't thought much about. Dr. McCroy declared, "Don't put a period where God has placed a comma. Don't put a period where God has placed a comma." What a powerful phrase. That is such a powerful phrase. There are a handful of ladies in our church who got comma tattoos. Don't put a period where God has placed a comma. The Bible is chock full of stories that support that statement. Don't put a period where God has placed a comma. For example, Sarah and Abraham had passed their childbearing years. There would be no children, period. Nope, comma. For several mornings in a row, Sarah felt nauseous, and then a blue plus sign turned up on her early pregnancy test. Joseph was beaten up by his brothers and sold as a slave to a bunch of traders bound for Egypt. There went his life, period. Nope, comma. Joseph rose to prominence in Egypt, saved his family, and saved the nation. Peter denied he knew Jesus even as Jesus was being beaten and lied about. Peter could never be forgiven for that, period. Nope, comma. After the resurrection, Jesus went first to Peter and forgave him and restored him. John Mark left Paul and Barnabas high and dry in Pamphylia. John Mark walked out, wimped out, and weaseled out. He chickened out, copped out, and cut out. Paul said John Mark's ministry was over, period. Nope, comma. John Mark ended up being a favorite missionary colleague of the Apostle Paul and the author of our second gospel. Stories like that fill the pages of the Bible. And then there was Jesus. The nails sank through his hands and feet deep into the wood. The sky grew ominously dark. The earth quaked violently. Jesus' blood stained the sand and stone of the hill called Golgotha. Jesus cried out and gave up his spirit. As Friday afternoon faded into Friday evening, Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus placed Jesus' dead, disfigured body on the cold slab of a borrowed tomb. They rubbed spices into his increasingly clammy skin, and then they wrapped him, much like you and I would imagine a mummy being wrapped. And then Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus walked away. Jesus was dead, period. Nope, comma. Suddenly, on Sunday morning, Jesus' heart started as if by a defibrillator. His lungs filled with breath, his eyelids sprang open, and he sat up off that cold slab as alive as you and I. In the words of the late S.M. Lockridge, Herod couldn't kill him, death couldn't handle him, and the grave couldn't hold him. On Sunday morning, when the women were on the way to anoint Jesus' dead body, the ground shook beneath their feet, and when they arrived, they found something unusual. The guards weren't guarding anymore. The seal wasn't sealing anymore. The tomb wasn't tombing anymore. The dead wasn't dead anymore. Lori Beth Jones wrote that a 10-year-old boy once asked her if she knew what Jesus' first words were after he came out of the tomb. "No," she answered. "What were they?" The little boy spread his arms, leaped forward, and said, "Ta-da!" Roman officials had rolled a stone in front of the tomb as if to place a big, fat, obnoxious period at the end of Jesus' life. But God had placed a mere comma there, and from that comes great encouragement. Don't put a period where God has placed a comma. When I was in the 10th grade, our high school in Anniston presented a musical called Mame. In Act 1 of that play, Mame's nephew, Patrick, is a little boy. In the second act, however, he's a young man. My part was older Patrick, Patrick as a young man. That meant I had no lines or songs until Act 2. Well, my mother told her friends that I had a big part with lines and songs in the high school musical. And one of my mother's friends, Rosalie, came one night to see the play. At the end of Act 1, there was an intermission. The curtain closed, the lights on stage went dark, people in the audience stood to stretch and went to the lobby to get refreshments. But Rosalie went home. She thought the play was over. The next day, she called my mother, all concerned because she never saw me on stage. Rosalie had not heard me say any lines or sing any songs, and she was confused. Of course, the problem was she left too early. When the lights went down and the curtain closed, Rosalie thought it was all over and went home. The moral of the story is, when the curtain closes and the lights go down, don't walk out. The play ain't over. It's just intermission. Don't put a period where God has placed a comma. In the spring of 2014, I left the pastorate to take advantage of an opportunity to serve with the church planting movement called Fresh Expressions. But after a while, I really missed being a pastor. And yet I thought I was finished being a pastor. I thought there was a period at the end of that sentence. And then First Baptist Church of Huntsville gave me an opportunity in August of 2014 to come and be their interim preacher. I'd fly in from Richmond to preach on the weekends. It was a great and unexpected gift to me. Eventually, God and First Baptist Church gave me an opportunity to be a pastor again at a wonderful church. And that gave me the opportunity to do this, TV Church. I tell you that for a couple of reasons. One, to say how grateful I have been to be able to speak with you each week. And two, to say that if you've ever been disappointed, if you've ever seen a dream slip away, don't assume there's a period at the end of the sentence. Don't put a period where God has placed a comma. Ecclesiastes 3 verse 4 says, there's a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. I know of no more tragic story than that of Greg and Laura McKenzie. 22 years ago, they were missionaries in Lebanon. Greg's mom was visiting them. They were sitting at a border crossing. Greg and Laura's two little children, Samuel and Abigail, were in the car, in the back seat with Greg's mom, when a truck lost its brakes and rammed them from behind. Samuel, Abigail, and Greg's mom were killed. I remember the first time I met Greg and Laura. It was just a few weeks after their loss. I never have had an experience quite like meeting Laura for the first time. She was completely expressionless. Her profound pain made her seem hollow. That was 2004. 15 years later, Laura posted this picture on Facebook. Greg and Laura will never fill the emptiness in their hearts left by the deaths of their little boy and little girl. And they would not suggest that faith makes anyone immune to deep grief. But they are resurrection people. And they would say there comes a time to eat tabbouleh again. There comes a time to eat baba ganoush again. There's a time to dance again. I was sitting on Virginia Beach on an August Saturday in 2007 when I got a call that Highland Carter had died unexpectedly and suddenly. Highland's wife, Valerie, was the missions minister at the church where I then was pastor. Valerie was devastated. It felt to her like there was a great giant period at the end of her sentence. I spoke with Valerie a year or so after Hyland's death, and she courageously shared her struggles. Valerie was very honest, saying things like, "I'm more hopeful this week than I was last week, but I have moments where hope totally seems to disappear." About 15 years later, Valerie met a wonderful man named Frank Smith. Frank never had been married and said he felt like God had been keeping him for Valerie Carter. I spoke with Valerie shortly before their marriage, and she was downright giddy, like a teenage girl in love. When Valerie turned 60, Frank threw her a big surprise party, and they danced. Yep, they danced right there in the church fellowship hall. "He twirled me," Valerie said. There comes a time to eat baba ganoush again. There comes a time to dance again. Don't put a period where God has placed a comma. Let me be clear. Easter doesn't solve all the world's problems. Easter doesn't end the war in Ukraine or Iran. Easter doesn't unite divided Americans. Easter doesn't cure cancer. Easter is, however, a window into God's nature, intentions, and power. Easter says God's nature is unfailing love. Easter says God's intentions are redemption and restoration. Easter says God's power is such that when He so chooses in His perfect wisdom and love, He can reach all the way down to dark places, even tombs, and bring life. That's important enough to say again. Easter is a window into God's nature, intentions, and power. Easter says God's nature is unfailing love. Easter says God's intentions are redemption and restoration. Easter says God's power is such that when He so chooses in His perfect wisdom and love, He can reach all the way down to dark places, even tombs, and bring life. Easter says, don't place a period where God has placed a comma. When I come back, I'm going to tell you a story from my days in Venezuela. A story about a little boy on whose story our world would have placed a period, but God Himself had placed a mere comma.
How I live for the moments where I'm still in Your presence and all the noise dies down. Lord, speak to me now. You have all my attention. I will linger and listen. I can't miss a thing. Lord, I know my heart wants more of You. My heart wants something new, so I surrender all. All I want is to live within Your love, be undone by who You are. My desire is to know You deeper. Lord, I will open up again, throw my fears into the wind. I am desperate for a touch of heaven. You're the fire in the morning, You're the cool in the evening, the breath in my soul, You're the life in my bones. There is no hesitation in Your love and affection. It's the sweetest of all. Lord, I know my heart wants more of You. My heart wants something new, so I surrender all. All I want is to live within Your love, be undone by who You much from you. I open up my heart to you. I open up my heart to you now. So do what only you can. Jesus, have your way in me now. I open up my heart to you. I open up my heart to you now. So do what only you can. Jesus, have your way in me now. I open up my heart to you. I open up my heart to you now. Do what only you can. Jesus, have your way in me now. And all I want is to live within your love, be undone by who you are. My desire is to know you deeper. Lord, I will open up again, throw my fears into the wind. I am desperate for a touch of heaven.
Someone wrote, Easter makes Jesus dangerous. Easter means he must be loose out there somewhere. To believe that God raised Jesus from the dead is to know that Jesus is not some ancient historical figure whose body lies in some unknown tomb. It is to believe that he is alive and present by his Spirit. He's loose. Pastor Aleman was a pastor in the small Venezuelan town of Mene Grande. One Sunday night, the worship services of Pastor Aleman's church were interrupted by rocks hitting and then rolling loudly down the tin roof of the church. Two boys were outside entertaining themselves by throwing rocks up onto the roof. The pastor had all he could take and he ran outside. He grabbed the boys and asked them where they lived. "I'm taking you to your parents," the pastor said. The boys laughed. They were street kids. They had no parents. Period. Pastor Aleman took the boys home with him, and thus began the Baptist Boys' Home, where I, years later, went to work for 2 years as a missionary. Because of Pastor Aleman's faithfulness, experiences that lots of boys thought were periods turned out to be commas. Take, for instance, a Guajira Indian boy named Jose Gregorio. His mom was not sure which man was Jose's father, and because she was either unable or unwilling to care for the boy, she took him to live with an elderly Venezuelan couple. Jose Gregorio had no real family, no real place in Venezuelan society. Jose's future looked bleak. Period. Nope, comma. Eventually, the elderly couple felt they couldn't provide for him properly and took him to the boys' home that Pastor Aleman had started. One day, Jose and I were in my little office talking about what it means to follow Jesus. Jose had been exposed to what following Jesus means, for those boys were in church every week. We were just chatting. In the middle of our conversation, Jose Gregorio interrupted me, and he said, "Hermano Travis, Mi corazón está haciendo boom, 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 boom. Brother Travis, my heart is going boom, 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 boom. What do you think that is, Jose? I asked. And he answered, Creo que es Jesús. I believe it's Jesus. The resurrection means Jesus is loose out there. He was loose in Venezuela. He found a boy in an out-of-the-way place and invited Jose Gregorio to follow him. And he's loose in North Alabama, seeking people who are, in Jesus' own words, lost. Maybe in your mind, you've placed a period at the end of your spiritual journey. You've decided the answer to Jesus is no. Too many hypocritical Christians, too many unanswered questions, period. I get it. And yet, in quiet moments, maybe you have sensed something like Jose Gregorio's boom, 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 the stirring of your heart. That is the whisper of the Spirit of the risen Jesus. I pray you will consider that stirring of your heart and trust your life for here and forever to the resurrected Jesus.
In the darkness we were waiting, without hope, without light, till from heaven you came running. There was mercy in your eyes to fulfill the law and prophets. To a virgin came the word, from a throne of endless glory to a cradle in the dirt. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory,
We hope you're enjoying TV Church, and we have a request for you. Would you consider hosting a group of friends in your home to watch TV Church together? You could serve snacks or have people bring elements of a meal to eat together. You could gather and watch live at 10 a.m. Sunday mornings on Way TV, or you could record it on TV and watch it together anytime. You could watch together from your computer at tvchurch.online anytime. You don't have to be some kind of expert. You just need to like people. And on top of that, you can invite people you like. People you like who are not part of a church family. We at TV Church would provide you suggested discussion questions, so you could watch together, discuss what you've seen, and then maybe eat together. Or you could snack as you watch. There will be no obligation to First Baptist Church of Huntsville. We produce TV Church, but you don't have to be a part of us to host this in your home. This is just an effort to take the church with a capital C where people are. You could be a part of someone's significant, holistic, eternal transformation right there in your home. Would you be willing to consider being a host? Email Pastor Travis at travis@fbchsv.org. He will get you on the email list to receive discussion questions for the week. Would you consider that?